Okay, so I just went ahead and shared my screen here. What we're looking at is just one of our demo systems that we have that just has some basic dummy information that's thrown about. As you can see, there's a number of different lead types touching everything from your financial industry such as mortgage to solar or home improvement to payday to health insurance and so on and so forth. So to start off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Brett Hetman. I'm the Client Services Manager here at Boberdo. And this webinar here is specifically going to go into the age-old question of, why didn't this lead match? Obviously, the lead business, you're in the business of selling your leads. And so when a lead does not sell, that, of course, is a big deal. And so the faster that you're able to then troubleshoot why it particularly did not match or what may have happened with that will essentially allow you to go through and be able to sell those leads in the future faster and be able to troubleshoot these issues that may seem like over your head, but once you get down to this kind of the basic details of it, it's quite simple. So to start off, we're going to go through very basically, the first three things that any partner or buyer or client or agent that you have, in order for them to get leads, three things have to happen. First is they have to be active, which this could be their account status here, and they can just be clicked here to turn off or turn on. Some of our clients elect to allow their own buyers to deactivate themselves. That's an option that you can set individually for each account under their account information. So that's something to think about as well. If you're going to extend that option out to them, can they change their own status? That's something to consider. We've seen many situations where a client comes to us and says, "Hey, this lead's not matching. What's going on?" And then you can click on this sub tab here, account settings history, and you can see anything that's changed, who changed it at what time. So we've seen many examples where they've given the client the ability to log in themselves and turn themselves on or off. So the client's thinking, all right, well, this lead should be matching to buyer ABC. Why isn't it matching? And then they log in and they see that buyer ABC turned themselves off. So that's always the first thing that we're going to check, is just to make sure that that account is active, as well as their lead filter set has the ability to be deactivated or activated. And you can tell here which ones are active or not active.
Rachel from Lear asked me for a Skype, or my Skype name, so I gave it to her.
Click Do Not Disturb.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Hey, David, I can hear you right now.
Oh.
Sorry
about that.
Yeah, one of the first things. Nope, no problem. Again, the filter sets themselves can be activated or deactivated as well. Just by clicking here, you can see which ones are active or not active. So that's always the very first basic check. I'm sure that comes to no surprise to some of you. The second step is that they have to have some type of credit or money in their account. There's a couple different ways to do this depending on what your business does in combination with what your buyers are looking to do. Some people make them prepay. We're pre-integrated with a couple different payment gateways, Authorize.net, PayPal, so on and so forth. You can also have them manually add money to their account. If they write you a check or send you a wire, you can manually add money to their account under the Transactions tab. And then lastly is you can give them a credit limit, which is essentially fake money or how much money they can go into negative. So you can see here any of these ones that have a negative account balance have some type of credit limit established, which allows them to go into negative funds. So that's always the second thing to check. Do they have enough money in their account? The easiest place to check, when you click on Edit for any particular account, you can go to their Transactions tab, and you'll be able to see not only every single lead that they've ever purchased, but also their total account balance. If they're at zero, and you don't have a credit limit given to them, you can manually add money to them by clicking this Add New button. Anything that's credit will add money to the account. Anything that's charge will subtract money. And then under invoicing and billing, their credit limit is where it can be. This is where that setting can be configured. If you never want to have to worry about them having enough money in their account, a very common example, many of our clients will just set, all right, we're going to set the credit limit to no limit. That way you never have to worry about them having enough money in their account to purchase leads. Once you select no limit, you can click Update Billing Information for that to save. Or if you do a limit account and you type in $1,000, that means they can go up to negative $1,000 in their lead buying account balance. Once they reach that limit, they'd have to pay that off, or you'd have to give them more credit for them to get more leads. And then lastly, and the most important part of the system, is the lead filter sets. They have to have a matching lead filter set if they're going to be able to purchase a lead. This means every single field has to match every single filter option that's set in the particular filter for that client. Meaning, all right, a lead comes in and it has state equals, this filter set takes California only, and only if it's 90210, for example. Lead comes in and has state California, but it's a different zip code, it's not going to be able to match. Each and every single option on the filter has to match the lead if it's going to match to that. So just as a basic overview, those are the very first three things that anytime someone says, hey, this lead's unmatched, what happened? Those are always the very first three things to check. 90% of the time, it's going to be one of those situations. So just to give you some examples of, how that would look for you, we're going to go ahead and click onto our mortgage lead type. So this lead ID here, 9, came in unmatched. Well, why did it come unmatched? Well, we're going to reprocess the lead, accept and assign lead. This lead's not matched with any partners. I'm going to open the Partners tab in a new one so we can switch back and forth. I know that this very first Acme company is my mortgage buyer. They should be getting the leads. I see right away, oh, they're not active. I flip them active. Now we're going to try it again. Accept and assign lead. It's still not matched. So now we're going to say, all right, it's active. What's the next thing to check? We go to the lead filter sets. We see their mortgage filter. And we say, oh, okay, this mortgage filter is not active either. So I go ahead and click that. Now when I go back and I reprocess the lead, it pops up, and now I can select that particular buyer and match it with them to sell that lead to that account. So that's just one of the most basic troubleshooting. Of course, the active, not active. Moving on to the next example, the next lead ID here. I know it should be matching with a different partner that I have set up that takes mortgage leads. It's this one. Right away, a good thing to check is, especially if you're signing on a brand new client that you just set up, they just went live, you're excited to get them leads, they're excited to get leads from you. One of the first things you can see here is the lead buying's at 0. That's always a telltale sign that either maybe they don't have money in their account or a credit limit set. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check their credit limit under their account settings, invoicing and billing. And I see here, yep, their credit limit is set to 0. So right now they basically don't have any money in their account to purchase leads. If I were to go in through and give them $100 worth of credit and click Update Billing, now when I go to this lead and click Reprocess, this client that I want to sell the lead to is now available, and I'm going to go ahead and match it with them. Voila, it goes ahead and processes the lead and matches it to that particular account. So due to them not having enough money in the account previously, they were unable to purchase that lead. So now moving along to our next example, let's switch to a different lead type here. And let's take a look at, so very good question that just came through. Is there a way to update leads and reprocess them in bulk? So what you can do is when you get the list of leads, the bulk list that you're looking to reprocess, you can use that by using a combination of the date filter, the filter icon. So maybe you want to reprocess all the leads that are from California, or maybe you want to reprocess all the leads that are mortgage refinance, and do that in bulk. Once you use the filter and you get the list, like right now I have a list of 6 possible leads to be reprocessed, there's a bulk reprocess icon at the top here. So this is how you can do multiple at the same time instead of individually clicking on the reprocess icon here. So when you click on this, it's a little bit more in depth since you're doing more than one lead. So you can select all the partners you want to attempt to. If a partner has multiple filter sets, it will list them here as well. So if you only wanted them to attempt to one particular filter instead of all the filters, you could then pick and choose, which ones you want. I'm just going to do select all for this particular example. And then you just have some options: maximum number of leads sold to one partner, maximum number of leads you actually want reprocessed. Do you want to ignore the exclusivity, which are rules to determine how many times a lead can sell? If a partner has a custom delivery and their delivery fails, do you want to skip any future leads from being reprocessed to attempt to that one delivery? So those are just different options you can do, and then once you click bulk reprocess, it'll go through. So a good thing to think about when you are doing this is that, especially if you have custom deliveries, if you're trying to reprocess, say, 100 leads, that process is going to take a while. Say each delivery in theory takes 10 seconds for you to send it to your buyer and your buyer to reply back saying yes, they bought it. 100 leads times 10 seconds, you're looking at a long time for that reprocess window to be open and for your lead system to be spinning and processing. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to do the bulk reprocess, that those leads will run in tandem one after another until it's reprocessed. So yes, if you don't want to have to do it individually, there is the bulk reprocess icon at the top where you can do that to make it a little bit easier for you instead of clicking each individual lead and reprocessing it. So moving on to the next lead type, we're going to look at solar. One second. All right, so now we're on the solar lead type level, and we're going to look at a couple examples here. So we looked at the active, not active, and then we looked at the credit limit. Of course, the next thing, the filter set, and this is the one that's usually the cause for why a lead goes unmatched. Since this is how your whole system kind of is designed, to use these filters so that automatically, as soon as the lead hits the system, we're matching that lead to the correct buyer or buyers based upon that specific lead criteria: a certain state, a certain zip code, certain SRC it comes from, a certain utility company, in this example for solar. So let's look at lead ID 23. This lead came in. I have one particular account ready to get that lead. It's not matching with them. So I'm going to go into their particular account. So I go and I see, all right, they have a U.S. Solar filter set here, and then when I click on it, I can see exact what criteria they take. So when I compare in one tab to another, all right, I see this lead is from Arizona, this zip code. Oh, they only take leads from Oregon. So that clearly explains they're not able to get that lead from Arizona. So if I were to submit another lead that was from Oregon, that would then be eligible to match to that particular filter. Now let's look at another lead here, 27. This one came in from state California. I know that I have another account set up. They also have a U.S. Solar filter set. All right, the lead is from California. They take California, so why doesn't that match? Of course, you have to look at every single filter option that's set in this particular filter set. So zip code also has to match. Nope, it's from an actually different zip code. So I'm going to change that to also allow this particular. So now, right, it should match, but it doesn't. So now we're looking, all right, what could possibly be? Go back to the drawing board. What else do they have set up as a filter for that particular lead order that they have? So we got the zip code, we got the state, we're going through. Oh, they also have a utility provider, has to be ComEd. To view the full lead information, so right here when you're looking at your leads page, this is a basic preview. The fields that you want to be able to view, those can be changed for your individual login. So you have your own login, your partner or your assistant has their own login. This column priority configuration button, you can individually choose for only your login, both the order that you want them to be displayed in and also which ones want to be displayed. We can add more fields to be shown in here. You just have to let us know. But then each individual user can determine, how that basically looks when they log in. A common example, sometimes I see they slide the Partners tab to be all the way to the left here. So that way, instead of having to scroll over to see it all the way to the right, you can see that listed here easily. So that's just something to think about as well, a little tip. But if you wanted to see full lead information that's not in your preview, all you have to do is click the Open Lead Info button, which is the actual lead ID, and then you can see each field, even your internal ones, and then each of your different tabs at the top for the contact information, the other information. A common example lots of people do is they want to see the full leads. They click Edit Lead. I wouldn't recommend doing that just because we've seen many changes where people accidentally, click something, don't realize it, and then they click Save, and then they accidentally change or edit the lead. Just a safer way and a little bit cleaner way to view it is just to click that lead ID to see the full information. So back to this example, I click on lead ID 27, the one that we're trying to match. The utility providers, Ambit Energy, they only take ComEd, so that's why that lead's not eligible to match to that particular filter. So active, not active, credit limit, matching filter, those are always the big ones. We'll see many examples of the next example of why a lead doesn't match is usually it could be due to duplicate settings. So to explain duplicate leads, just because they can get a little fuzzy since there are two different sets of duplicate checks. One set of duplicate checks is on the insert. So when your vendor's sending in you a lead, your form is sending in a lead, When that lead's attempting to get into the system, that's the first duplicate check. So before it's even trying to match, trying to sell, that duplicate check is applied. And it's individually set for all of your different lead types. So one lead type could have one field and date range compared to another one. Another lead type could have different values completely. So for example, US Solar, it's a duplicate if it's the same phone number in the last 30 days, but maybe your health insurance one is email in the last 7 days. So if that same value is found within that time frame, that lead is completely rejected from entering the system. An error message is returned back to your vendor, and it says error duplicate lead with value, whatever the duplicate check value is, email or phone, or it could be email and phone. Those settings can be chosen by you as far as what you want to check for a duplicate. So if it's found within that time frame, that lead's rejected completely. Now, the second check is at each individual buyer level. And so in order to get that far, it of course has to pass that initial insert dupe check. So once it does that, then the system's looking at, under their lead type settings, what the dedupe period is. So if it's set to no check except duplicates, that means they're able to purchase a lead that they've already bought before. So if you forget here, there's a little mouse over with the eye. Checks if the lead with the same duplicate check fields has been sold to this partner up to the selected days ago. If so, then it's not sold. So for example, if you have, let's say it's no duplicate within 60 days. So let's assume that the duplicate insert check is always the smallest number from this drop-down. So that means 30 days. It can't get into the system even. But let's say that you set the duplicate check for the partner to 60 days. So that means a lead that's 50 days old that this particular partner has already purchased, the lead could come into the system since it's older than 30 days. And then, but since they've already purchased it within the last 60, they would not be able to purchase that lead. So this dedupe period is only applying to leads that this particular account that we're under has already bought. I saw a couple chats come through that I will address in a bit here. So what field is a duplicate check looking for? That's set individually for each different lead type, and that's chosen by you. If you're unsure what it is, you can go to any partner account, and then where you have your lead type here, if you mouse over the eye, it's going to show you what field is being used. So for example, this one's checking email. This one doesn't have any duplicate check being used. I mean, all duplicates can be allowed in. This one's checking email. This one's checking home phone and project and zip code. So there's an example of multiple fields that can be used to have the duplicate check be. So this will always show you. And to change that, you just have to let us know. It's set on the back end by us on the lead type level. So that's just something that has to be adjusted. It's a very quick change in our end, though. Just have to let us know what that is, and that can be done through a ticket. Very simply clicking the tickets icon. Here's the lead type. Here's the duplicate check I want to have. This is the number of days I want to have it at. We can go ahead and make that adjustment for you. So again, that's on the insert, getting the lead into the system. The dedupe period is just for this partner account that we're clicked on. So right now, Hugh Honey, and it's for how many or what leads they can get that they've already purchased. So if you don't want them to get a lead that they've already gotten in the last X amount of days, you can use this drop down. Secondarily, there is also a separate option, which is overall dedupe check. So this enabled, disabled, this does not apply to these drop downs here. It's something completely separate. And if you mouse over again, this will give you a little bit of a better definition. But essentially, this is the most extreme duplicate check you can apply in the system. It's saying if this is set to enabled, this account can never purchase a lead if that email address has ever been in the system before. And when I say ever, I mean forever. The lead could be 10 years old. It could have been sold to another account. It could have not sold at all. If this is set to enabled, if that email or whatever the duplicate check field is has ever been in the system before, they're not able to get that lead. So that's something, like I said, it's very extreme, but that option is there in case you do have a partner that says, hey, I don't want any lead that's ever been used before or been in the system before or sold to someone else or sold to me. The overall dedupe check can be used in that situation. So that's especially when we have, if you're doing ping post, that's a very common example that you'll run into is maybe the duplicate check, because to briefly explain ping post, the ping comes through and it's only the partial information. It's never any of the contact information like phone or email, which are usually the duplicate check fields. So therefore, the ping comes in, it matches to Hugh Honey, and Hugh Honey says, they offered $10 for that lead. Your vendor says, great, I'm going to post that lead through. Well, then the post comes through, and the lead doesn't sell. That could be because they've already purchased that lead before, because that post is only when the phone or email comes in. So that's the only status point that we know that what that lead is or who that lead is. So in the post, that's the only time that the duplicate check can even be applied. So duplicates, that could be another reason a lead does not sell. So again, to backtrack where I viewed this information at, you can click on your partners or your buyers or your agents, whatever they're referred to in your system. And if you click on their lead type settings page, this is where you can see what your duplicate check field currently is by highlighting over the I for each lead type that you have. And this is where you can set the dedupe period for what leads they can purchase. So the next setting we're going to look at is going to be lead limits. And there's a couple different places you can set lead limits in the system. So I want to make sure I cover those and kind of explain the hierarchy and how they work. So lead limits can be applied under each partner account, and they have a whole tab here at the top called Lead Limit Settings. And when you click on this page, you're able to see the couple different lead limit options that can be applied to that account. So at the top, starting here, the total lead limits, you can do daily, weekly, monthly. This applies to the entire account. Now, below it, we have the lead type limits, which can be applied, same thing, daily, weekly, monthly, but they can be applied to each different lead type that you have set up in your system. So those are the top two. And then probably the ones you're most familiar with seeing are the lead limits that can be set at each individual filter set level. So here you have, again, daily, weekly, monthly for the whole filter set level. And then again, daily, weekly, monthly for the individual sub-partner. And I'll get to that definition and explanation. Someone asked, can we limit by hour if we requested to have that? Yes, we can enable a feature that will allow you to do lead limits per hour as well. That's something that you would like. Feel free to you can just reply actually with your comments here in the chat section, and David will make note of those, and we can add that to your system for you. It's just a switch on our end that we have. So to backtrack, we had the total account level lead limit, we had the lead type limits, we had the filter set limits, and then we had the sub partner filter set limits. So these are a hierarchy, meaning if one's reached at the top, it's only going to be applied to that one. So let me go back to the account settings page to give you a fresh example of what that means. So let's say that you set their total daily limit to 10 leads. Then you set, they only can get 7 leads under mortgage, and 7 leads under U.S. Solar. The hierarchy goes the total lead limit for the whole account, then the lead type limit. So in this situation, they could get 7 solar leads and then only 3 mortgage leads, or vice versa, or any combination, but they'll never eclipse the 10 leads, since that total account limit takes precedence over the lead type limit. So in this example, it looks like they could get a total of 14 leads, but their whole account level is set to 10, so it's going to cap it out at a total of 10 leads. Could be a combination of either of these two. And then below the lead type limit then is applied the actual filter set level. And then I know many people get confused and they say, I see there's daily, weekly, monthly, and hourly. That's an option, as we said, here at the lead limit, but what's this in the small box? Which one do I adjust? If you're not doing sub-partners, which 95% of our clients do not do, that's to define a sub-partner, it's basically a sales rep within a particular buyer's company that they have. So if they wanted to route leads directly to a particular agent, the most common example on why it was built is, we had many people with like loan officers and managers and accounts. They wanted to route leads specifically to different account managers within their particular company. When adding a sub-partner, you can then add them into the filter set, so that way you have multiple people in one filter set. And that's when these daily, weekly, or monthly and priorities can be used to distinguish which leads should go where within that particular filter set. If you're not doing sub-partners, you don't plan on doing sub-partners, then the easiest thing to do is only ever worry about this top line here. That makes it the easiest to maintain and the easiest to troubleshoot. Otherwise, you're clicking through accounts and you're looking at, all right, well, what's their total account limit, what's their lead type limit, and then going to the filter set level. What most of our clients have reached out to us and told us what they do is they just only set at the filter set level here. That way it's one easy place to check, one easy place to look to determine if they're at their lead limit or not. Those other options are there if you need it to be a little bit more complex and you need to really to affect your routing and really get those numbers appropriate to what the buyer is looking for. However, if you're just looking to set a basic daily cap, rather than setting it at the account level and also setting it at the filter set level, you could just manage it solely on this filter sets tab here. So very simple. You can click without even having to go into the filter set, go here and set whatever that number is. And that way if a lead comes through and they're at that cap already, they're not able to leads. And while we're on the topic of that, one of our reports that we have is the Partner Quota Report. And you can see here, it says date selection is neglected, the current date is used instead. So this is what you can run, at any point during the day to see how many leads they've received so far, what filters they have selected. So we looked at we said they only take those 2 zip codes, only that particular utility, only those states. This is how many leads they've gotten so far today, what their daily limit is if they have it set. So that's an easy way to check, how many leads they've gotten to ensure that they're on par with their lead limits. Another big reason why a lead goes unmatched is for if their custom delivery fails. So custom delivery is just when, let's say your buyer has Salesforce, or they have Velocify, or they have their own CRM, or their own ping post system. Essentially, they don't want the leads emailed to them. They want the leads sent out programmatically to their own system so that they can receive them there. So when we set up those deliveries, we're always programming in what's called the success response. And the success response is what the buyer you're trying to sell to returns back to let you or the system know that they bought that lead. So many times what can happen is you go to send them the lead, the filters match, they got enough money, they should be getting the lead. It's tempting to them, but it's not selling. And that can of course be a frustrating thing because you know that it's set up correctly on your end, and you're like, well, why the heck is it just not matching with it? So what you can do, for every lead on your leads page, there's this show lead log icon. And when you're troubleshooting leads that are going out to buyers that have custom deliveries, this is your best friend. When you click on this, it's going to give you a full pop-up and show you exactly what happened with the lead. So especially if you're doing ping post, this is going to show you each buyer that it attempted the ping out to, what their responses are back, why they accepted that lead or why they didn't. Some buyers' responses are a little bit more detailed than others and will actually provide a reason. Some are more generic, such as like no coverage, or basically they're saying they don't want that lead. So when you're going through, that's always the one of the first things you want to check as well. And this is where your unmatched color coding will come into play. Any of them that are blue unmatched, that means they didn't match to any filter set at all. Meaning, that's when you're going to want to check those, everything that we looked at previously, the account status, their credit limit, their filters, duplicates, all of that, compared to an unmatched that has that's colored red. Those are ones that attempted out, but they actually failed to route to the buyer that was getting the lead. So meaning the buyer's response is rejecting the lead. So you attempted to sell it to them, they returned back an error saying they didn't want it. That lead log will help you determine what that is to help troubleshoot what may or may not have happened with the lead. So many times if you go and you click on the lead log and you see, all right, they responded with no coverage, you're going to go to your buyer and you're going to say, hey, why didn't you buy this lead? And they're going to ask you, hey, can you send over what we sent for that lead? So to do that, all you have to do is go to your Tools Logs page, and there's a tab called Lead Logs. So here you'll click the lead type that you're looking for. You'll click under the filter icon at the top, and you're going to put in the lead ID of the lead you're looking to see what was sent out. So I'm going to type in 33, for example. This is going to show you the full log. These are just email leads, so it's going to have the actual strings. But you can click on the open lead log for any of the tabs here to see, and it'll show you a full log of where the lead was sent to, so the buyer's posting URL, the data that was sent, so first name equals John, last name equals Smith, so on and so forth, and then finally the response that they returned back. So this is an easy way you can copy and paste this information to send to the buyer to have them troubleshoot, to say, hey, why didn't you buy this lead? So delivery fails, that's always a big one. If you're looking for, let's say that you sign on a new buyer, they have a new custom delivery, they're all set up, they haven't gotten any leads yet, you're wondering maybe they're rejecting all of their leads. You don't want to click on each individual, you don't want to go through your leads page and click on show lead log for each. What you can do, I'm just going to get the ID of this partner here, you can go to this Tools Logs page. Instead of filtering by the lead ID, you can click and you can filter by the partner or client ID or buyer ID. And that way it's going to bring up the last 200 logs, just for everyone who doesn't have any. It's going to bring up the last 200 logs that have attempted to just that buyer. And that way you can click export to CSV, and that way you can view all of them in bulk instead of having to click show lead logs for each individual lead. So that's just a nice little feature if you want to go ahead and rather do that. Then click on each lead to see that. So now we've covered a lot of the internet lead or data lead portions of it. We're going to take a look very quickly at the phone calls if you're dealing with IPR leads or inbound phone calls. You'll see the leads page is very similar to the other ones. If you're doing phone calls, there's a couple different features or a couple different fields that we have here. But again, the show lead log is always going to be the best telltale sign of what happened with the call. It's going to show you exactly step by step of who it came through and if it matched anyone. If it matched, did they answer the call, yes or no. So if you see anything that's unmatched, that means that the call came in and it went to the default phone, meaning no buyer in your system was able to take that call. Maybe they're at their call limits. Maybe they don't take calls from that campaign. Those are filter set rules that we covered already. Or maybe they called in the middle of the night and the buyer only takes calls 9 to 5, during business hours. And they called at, after those business hours, it's not going to be able to route to them. So that's what the unmatched always is, meaning it went to the default. If it's declined, that means that it came through and it matched and it routed successfully to a buyer, but that buyer has a minimum call time that must be reached in order for them to be charged. And again, if you click on the show lead log, you can see here exactly what happened. With the lead log, you're always going to read from the bottom up. The most recent log is always at the top. Just like your leads page, the most recent lead is always at the top. So you start at the bottom. So this call came in, it matched with this account, with this routing phone number that's going to attempt to. So the call went to this partner with that number. And you can see the difference in the timestamps here to know how long approximately the call lasted as well. So they went to that and it was successful. The call lasted 0.38 minutes, but that's less than the minimum, which is a half a minute, so it undoes the sale, and that's why the lead does not show as matched to a partner. So matched to them, they got the call, but the call did not last that minimum call time, so it didn't allow to sell to them officially. Same thing with these other lead logs. Even though these are matched and sold, maybe they should have went to another buyer in your system. You can see here who possibly matched with it. It's always going to show you the first 3. This one only matched to this particular account. So the lead log, as I said, is generally your best friend when it comes to troubleshooting both why a lead does match and why a lead does not match as well. I say why a lead does match because you can always click and see, in this example, it routed to that particular buyer. If we're looking at an internet lead or a data lead, you can see, this buyer replied back with a success and an offer of $5. That's why it ultimately went to them. So those are the main parts that I wanted to cover. And really go through it in some details so you can see kind of, what's the process we do when we're troubleshooting, why these leads aren't matching if you ask us. So this way, the idea is to allow you to be able to do this yourself in the hopes that, this will allow you to effectively troubleshoot these faster and get those leads sold to your buyers. So with that being said, I wanted to now open it up to any questions that you have in regards to this. I'm going to go through some of these chat ones here as well. So someone asked when we're doing the reprocess what the ignore exclusivity option is. Exclusivity is applied at each individual partner level and in their filter sets, and the exclusivity is a rule that can override how many times a lead can sell, or the number of times a lead can sell. If it's set to exclusive, I'm going to go here into a filter set so you can see where exactly I'm referring to. And a nice reminder as well, when you do open a filter set at the top here, click here to view definitions for these settings. This gives you a full help page that has each individual field in the filter, and if you click on them, it's going to give you a full definition of what those are. So yeah, exclusive, it means basically a maximum of one time. Exclusive, no one else can get the lead. Semi-exclusive, a maximum of two. That buyer gets it, and then only one more. Non-exclusive means a minimum of two. They'll only get the lead if there's someone else to also get it. And if it's none, it follows the rules from the source level. So to answer your question, what happens when you click Ignore Exclusivity, that means it's going to disregard any of those settings you have applied when you're trying to reprocess the lead. So for example, if lead sold to buyer 1, they don't have any exclusive rules at all. You click Reprocess, and no one else is showing up. You think there should be one more buyer, but that buyer has, in their filter set, they have their exclusivity set to exclusive. That means they can only get leads that were sold once. Since the lead's already sold to someone else, they're not able to get that lead unless you click Ignore Exclusivity. So it just basically overrides any of those number of times the lead can be sold rules that you have set that for when leads come through in real time. Next question I hear is, how do I direct leads to a buyer? Where do I input their URL and tier key? Posting to Epic. I'm not sure what that means. It sounds like that's a custom delivery. So that's something that has to be built by the programmers if you don't have a tech person on your side to build those. And then what is the XML response when there's a negative balance for a partner? So there's only 3 different responses that when a lead comes into your system that will be sent back. And to go through the details of what those are, you can find those in your posting specs at the bottom. So if you click on Settings, Lead Type, and then click on any lead type that you have, there's 3 possible matches. It's either matched, unmatched, or error. So starting with an error, it's going to give the exact error reason. So required fields missing, something has an invalid value, it's a duplicate. It's going to specifically state what that error is so you know what to fix. And then matched and unmatched means there were no errors in the submission. The matched versus unmatched just applies on whether the lead is sold or not. If the lead comes in and sells successfully, it's going to have matched. If the lead comes through and doesn't sell, it's going to be unmatched. There's not a different response for a negative balance for a partner compared to a filter. So if you think about it, in the system we have 15 different buyers. Well, one doesn't have a filter that matches. Another doesn't have money in their account. Another, has a different reason. There's not one specific reason why the lead's not matching. So the responses that returned are just basically matched, unmatched, or error. Unmatched being it didn't match or it didn't sell properly when the lead got inserted. Another question that came through: can I spoof a matched response for testing? So that's actually a new article we're coming out with is all about testing, and just to go into some of the details about it. A very common example, or let me start it from the beginning actually. In order, when someone's sending a test lead in, same thing that we've covered in this webinar, the lead has to actually match if it's going to be returned back a matched response to someone when they're testing. When a lead is sent in and someone's testing, you're always going to want to have them submit test lead equals 1. What that means is the lead comes through, it looks at all the filters and does everything and attempts to process it and sell it, except for at that point it stops and deletes that lead from the system. It doesn't actually deliver the lead, it doesn't actually process the lead or charge for it. And that's just so that your system doesn't get filled up with John Does and testers and junk data like that. So having that test lead equals 1 option will make sure that the lead doesn't stay on your leads page, so your normal reporting isn't affected by test leads. So when you're sending the lead in, what many people do is they create a test account under their partner section. So just like you create a real buyer, you're going to create one. You can call it test. And what you do is you create a filter set. And what I always recommend is maybe setting the filter set so it only takes state equals Alaska and zip equals 99999. So that way when you have someone testing, you can say, all right, yeah, if you want to get a success response, please submit state equals Alaska and zip equals 99999. That way, none of your regular buyers are going to be accepting that type of data. So that way when someone's testing, they can submit that, junk data in to get through a success response. But same rules will have to apply. They got to have money in their account. They got to have that filter that matches. They got to be active. Any other questions regarding the matching of the leads or anything else in relation to that? If there's not any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. I hope this was beneficial for you. Maybe you're brand new to the system. Maybe you've had it for a while and just had these general questions. I hope this was helpful. And as we said at the beginning, the main purpose of the system is to sell leads. So if a lead comes in and it's not matching, that's obviously a big deal that you want to get corrected. So hopefully these tips and pointers that we've gone through will help lead you in the right direction next time these situations present themselves.
Thanks, Brett.
So thank you very much. We're going to this was recorded, so anyone that was registered, we're going to go ahead and send this out. So if you do want to revisit it at any time, that will be available to you. And if you have any questions, say you think of a question right after this and we hang up, feel free to go ahead and send an email to myself, Brett at boberdo.com, or to David as well, and we can get those addressed and answered for you. Thank you.
Thanks.